So for the final question of the evening, they asked me to go back up to question 11 and to find the midpoints of two of the segments in that last diagram. Find the midpoint of segment AB and the midpoint of segment CD. I've got these coordinates right here. So I think what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and do them here, and then we'll go up and look at the diagram and verify what we've got. So I'm going to do this the way our textbook does it, and I'll talk about some other techniques as well. And you guys have stumbled upon some things in class. But if I'm traveling from from point A to point B, we can see that the x value increases. Let me bring this down here so I've got more room. This will look better. So again, if I'm looking for the midpoint of AB, I can see that A has an x value that's at 2, and that increases to 6. So that's a net change of plus 4. And if I look at the y values, y starts at 1 and it increases to 2. So that's a net increase of just plus 1. So when I'm looking for the midpoint of segment AB, basically I'm going to start at A, and instead of going all the way up 4, I'm just going to go up 2 units. So if I start at 2, which is where it was starting before at point A, and I add to that an additional 2, right, that should be the x value for my midpoint. And then if I look at the y value, I went from 1 and I increased by 1. Instead of going all the way, I'm just going to increase by a half. So I'm looking here at 1 plus 1/2. So I believe the midpoint should be 4 and then comma. I can write that as either 3/2 or 1 and 1/2, whichever way you want. Similar thing for C and D. I can see I was using red for X. At C, I'm starting at 5, and I'm going actually down, right? I'm decreasing by 4 units. I decreased 4 units. And for this one, I was at 6, and I decreased by 1 unit, right? I went from 6 to 5, so this went down by 1 unit. So if I'm looking at it, I'm only going to go half the way. So for the midpoint of CD, I'm going to start at the value 5, and I'm going to go down not 4 units as I did if I went the whole way. I'm just going to go down 2 units. And for the y values, I'm going to start at 6, and instead of decreasing 1 full unit, I'm just going to go down just a half of a unit. So if I look at this point is 5 minus 2 is 3, and then 6 minus 1/2 is going to be 5 and 1/2. So my two answers, I think, the midpoint of AB should be at 4, and then comma 1 and 1/2. So x is 4, y is 1/2. Let's take a look at that. So I'm looking at 4, and then 1.5, and you can see it's right there, right? I go over 4 for x, and then I go up right there to the 1 and 1/2. That's perfect. The other point, so that I totally agree with that. The other one then is for CD, it should be 3 and then 5.5. So let's look at that. So I'm going to go over 3 units, and then I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's 1/2. And I totally agree with that as well. So my midpoints are there. And then, something that we've pointed out in class, other ways that you can consider these or find these. I think there's a lot of value in talking about it the way we just did, but, just an alternative approach. If I wanted to find the middle of A and B, I see that A is at 2, X is at 2 for A, and it's at 6 for B. Well, if I add 2 plus 6 and to take half of that, you can see that 2 plus 6 is 8, and half of that is 4. And so what I'm saying here is the midpoint for the x value is, that's 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So the x value for the midpoint is 4, and I can do something similar for y. And I'm looking at 2, and I'm looking at 1. So I'm going to add 1 plus the 2, right? y is 1 and y is 2, and I'm going to take half of that, which is 3 halves, which is of course equivalent to 1.5, or 1 and 1/2. So by finding the averages here, that's another way to find the midpoint, the point in between. Here's this point A, here's this point B. Somewhere in here there's a midpoint, and the length of these midpoints should be equal to each other, and from A to B should be twice as long as from A to the midpoint, or from the midpoint to B. I'm just rambling on. I'm sorry, class. Hey, this is Mr. Roberts. That was the last question on the team test. Good luck studying. I'm always available. Stop by anytime if you have questions. You need to see me in person.